Game 4 of the 6-game homestand continues, or Game 4 of the 6-game homestand is this evening at Bell MTS Place. Hello, everybody. I'm Jamie Thomas. Welcome to JetsTV Live Pregame Show presented by Budweiser. Here's Mitchell Clinton, my tag team partner in this event as we get ready for this game against the San Jose Sharks. San Jose comes in tonight, Mitch.
Yeah.
And before we get to them, it was a weird game Tuesday against the New York Rangers. Just I don't know any other way to really describe it. You fire 44 shots at the other team's net, but you didn't seem like you were really in the game the whole time. Just a quick thought on that before we move on.
And I don't know what it is about the New York Rangers this season that the Jets were able to generate 91 total shots in 2 games, and that's shots on goal. That's not attempts. That is 91 shots on goal within 2 games against the Rangers. But I mean, Shesterkin was fantastic. I mean, that was one thing that Paul Maurice really mentioned after the game was the fact their goaltender was good. He was solid. He was square. And that's not taking anything away from Connor Hellebuck. The chances that were right in front of him were tough to handle. So that's just the way it goes sometimes. The big thing now for the Jets is getting back, into the win column. Maurice said at the end of his availability today, just the way that this season's going to go the rest of the way, you almost have to treat every day like you're in a playoff series where you win a game, you take the good, you move forward. But if you lose a game, you got to get right back on the horse the next day.
And sometimes, should the Jets get into the playoffs, that's going to help them when it comes down to things. Let's take a look at the matchup board. The San Jose Sharks providing the opposition this evening. Speaking of weird, what a weird year for the San Jose Sharks.
Yeah, and injuries not helping that, especially of late with Logan Couture, Thomas Hertl, both out. But you look at the penalty kill, that 85.6% that the San Jose Sharks have put up, that's the best in the National Hockey League. But they do take a lot of penalty minutes, so that's something to keep an eye on. Should the Jets stay disciplined, they're going to have some opportunities on the power play. They're 1 for 5 against that league best penalty kills so far this season.
All right, 3 thoughts, and it's not so much game related as we enter into this one. Jets re-sign or extend Paul Maurice to a multi-year deal the other day. I mean, it's not a surprise. All you have to look at is the results this team is getting this year, considering all the turmoil they've been through in the offseason, the earlier part of the year, and with the distractions that have been provided. No surprise, but why now?
Well, it was just something that they had discussed during the offseason and kind of reached a point where both of them wanted to get a deal done, both of them being Paul Maurice, Kevin Cheveldayoff, and then you could probably also add Mark Chipman in there. He would definitely have a say in this. But, you talk to the players in the dressing room the day after. That was probably the most revealing part. And a lot of them talked about how much Paul Maurice has helped them develop. So you think of a guy like Patrick Laine. He comes in at 18 years old. A really highly touted prospect, just coming off being an MVP at the World Hockey Championship. And Paul Maurice says, listen, I'm not going to teach you how to play offense. You know how to do that. I'm not going to overwhelm you with a bunch of video. You're going to go out there, you might make mistakes. I don't want you to be afraid to make mistakes. Made Patrick feel comfortable, is pretty much what Laine said. Nikolai Ehlers was very similar. He came in after back-to-back 100-point seasons in the QMJHL, and Paul Maurice let him make his mistakes. Would he bench him at times when needed? Absolutely. That's what you have to do. But the players didn't have that fear. Blake Wheeler spoke today. He wasn't at practice yesterday, under the weather, but he's good to go today. He said, Paul Maurice kind of treats you as a person first and then a player second. So it doesn't matter if you've got 800 games in the National Hockey League or 100. He's going to communicate with you the same way. So that was probably the biggest thing that I got from the players. And Paul did, about the importance of communication between he and the players as well as he and management. So it sounds like everybody's on the same page, hence the extension.
I was at the Winnipeg Jets Hall of Fame luncheon the other day, and the timing of this was perfect. Mark Chipman made a speech about the Hall of Fame inductees. On top of that, announcing the extension for Paul Maurice. You got to sit down with Paul before the luncheon.
Yeah.
What was that conversation like?
About 10 feet behind us is where we sat down.
That's right.
And Paul was great as he always is. But the main thing that we focused on, I think, once we got past the emotion of getting the extension done and having that kind of out of sight, out of mind a little bit more, was that talk of transparency and how much, when he came to Winnipeg, he had an open conversation with Kevin Cheveldayoff about the state of the team, where they were at, and what the vision was and how much he's appreciated that transparency. So he dives in a little bit more on that in our conversation that we had a few days ago. Had kind of already happened, was at a little bit of a relief for you, and then also just the fact that it's done. Now those questions kind of go away, and it's all hockey.
Well, it was kind of maybe from the questions from their outside, and there weren't a lot of them. It truly wasn't anything I thought of. Once we had talked about it in the summer and all, as I said, agreed it's what we all really wanted to do. It was an inevitability that it would happen, and it has.
You've spoken about how much Winnipeg means to you and your family. So it's one thing to be able to continue as the second longest tenured coach in the National Hockey League, but it's another for your family to be able to know that Winnipeg's going to be the place to be for them for a while too.
There's two things that you hope for, I guess, at any point in your life, certainly at the point that I'm at. You want to enjoy your professional life. I mean, it's over the course of the hours of the day, it's where you spend all your time, and I love working here. There's lots of challenges that come with a young team, but that keeps you moving and growing as a coach and getting better. And then, but priority one is you got a family and you want them to enjoy their lives as well. And Winnipeg has given us so much more than we've given the city. For my kids and their friends and family and my wife as well. This truly is our home now, and being able to stay and work, I think we were staying one way or the other, but being able to stay and work for the Winnipeg Jets is perfect.
And in terms of, obviously, as media and fans, we don't get to go inside the dressing room, but sometimes you hear from players like Captain Blake Wheeler how communication is something that you do really well with the players, whether it's, just interpersonal, just talking to each other, or if it's, changing maybe the message year to year as the roster kind of changes. Kyle Connor was on NHL Network a couple of days ago, said the exact same thing, just that your communication is one of the best things that you bring to the table. Just how important is that communication, especially with perhaps the age range that is on an NHL roster?
And the time in the NHL, I would say that would be, aside from the style of hockey change, the biggest change is what the players need now when they come in that might have been different 15, 20 years ago. That individual communication and the group messaging has to be very, very clear. They want it. They want that kind of direction. So we work hard at it, and it's something in the coaching office we talk about. I mean, how are we interacting with our players? How does that change over the last 10 years? What do we need to do differently to make a closer connection? And we've got a very young group that kind of continually has gotten younger over the years. So we needed to be mindful of the change. I mean, when I came into the league, I think half the team was older than I was. Now I'm about the age of their parents, and their parents are younger than me. So you do need to change the way you talk to people and the way you interact with them. But that's all part of the great challenge of being in this league.
All right, there's Paul Maurice and gentleman to my right here, Mitchell Clinton. 7 minutes of joy.
Yes, big shout out to Tyler Esquivel on that edit, because
did not have a lot of time.
Yeah, we finished that interview, I would say probably about 10:20. Announcement was coming at 11:30, so I said, I'll try to keep the interview to like 4-ish minutes. A big 7 minutes that he had to cut in about an hour, so big shout out to him.
Well, Paul Maurice is not for short answers either, so you can kind of look at him.
No, but they're good. They're way better than listening to me babble
on
for a little while.
All right, let's move on here. The Jets taking on the San Jose Sharks. They are in the Pacific Division, but the position here where the Winnipeg Jets find themselves is 1 point out of a playoff spot in the Western Conference. Arizona is idle this evening, so the Jets could move into a playoff spot with a win tonight. Yeah,
and I mean, if you're going to be facing off against a division right now, the Winnipeg Jets would love to face the Pacific. Number one, obviously Arizona is in that division. They don't face Arizona, but they're facing against San Jose, who, like we talked off the top, having their struggles this season. The Jets have beat them twice so far this season. Of course, you have the 51 save performance that Connor Hellebuck had at the start of November, and Paul Maurice mentioned how that game was a little bit of a turning point for the Jets. They go on, of course, that month to win 10 games, but he said at that point they're in and around 500. They're still trying to figure out what their game is. And the performance that Connor Hellebuck put on that night showed the Jets exactly what they have to do with the team that they have, the blue line that they have, what they have to do to compete each night. They went into Vegas the next night, picked up a win there, not an easy building to win in, and of course go on to the 10-win November, which also included another win in San Jose against the Sharks. So overall, the Jets are 9-4 against the Pacific, but if you look over the course of the last 8 games, they've won 7 of them against the Pacific. Kyle Connor's had a heyday against the Pacific also. He's got 17 points against them this season. So if you want to try to hop back into that wild card spot, playing a Pacific Division team is a good look for the Jets right now.
Time to take advantage of these opportunities that are presented in front of you. San Jose kind of sitting in the bottom half. Well, not kind of. They are sitting in the bottom half of the Western Conference. Not often the Winnipeg Jets welcome two defensemen back into the fold, but that is the case. I don't want to jinx anything. Let's touch some wood if there's anything around here, but they're getting healthier on the blue line.
Yeah, of course. You're getting Lucas Spiza and Tucker Pullman back tonight. So Tucker Pullman's missed 12 games, and he talked a little bit this morning about, like, I missed a month. I got to come back in here, keep things a little bit simple. He'll be paired with Dmitry Kulikov tonight. He'll play that simple game, and he said, if things are going well, then you kind of start to try to build off of that. So he'll be playing his natural side, which is the right side. It's a good way for him to come back into the lineup. Now, as for Lucas Spiza, he's only missed a few games. So for him, maybe the adjustment isn't as bad. He, of course, took that wrist shot from David Perron off the inside of the leg in St. Louis. And I think as a guy that's been playing this season with the injuries that Lucas Spiza has and the amount of shots that he blocks, a few extra days are probably good for him. That's what Paul Maurice kind of alluded to this morning, is the fact that Spiza's been banged up. He probably could have won a couple of games ago, but they wanted to make sure that he was back at 100%. So Anthony Bitetto comes out. This will be the second game that he's missed since November 27th. And Sami Niku also comes out. A really good conversation between Niku and Paul Maurice kind of leading into this. Niku's played 13 consecutive games. Paul Maurice kind of brought up that the last 2 to 3 games maybe weren't Niku's best. Niku wasn't arguing with him. Maurice said, he's dealing with a little bit of an injury as well. And then there's also a legit excuse away from that he said was also something that Niku didn't want to use as an excuse, but was legit as well. So you can hear Maurice's full comments on that on Jets TV as well. But so Bitetto and Niku out, Pullman, Spiza back in.
Some changes on the Jets blue line, but it is not on the blue line we're looking for when it comes to your player to watch. Yeah,
we're going back up front with Kyle Connor. I touched on him a little bit earlier, 17 points in 13 games against the Pacific Division. His line, obviously, Mark Scheifele, Patrick Laine are dangerous on a number of occasions. Should Mark Scheifele find the back of the net, like I say he will do very soon. I like the fact that Kyle Connor will probably be involved in that. And also, as we've seen against Ottawa and against Chicago, he's got his scoring touch going as well. So I just really like the fact that Kyle Connor could be someone that will have an impact on this one tonight.
Maybe an impact from Mark Scheifele as well. Scheifele now 9 games without a goal, 20 shots on goal over those 9 games. So he is getting his opportunities that we've talked about many times on this pregame show. The other day, as I mentioned, it was the Winnipeg Jets Hall of Fame luncheon. 2 new members going in. It is, of course, Thomas Steen and Randy Carlyle. Now, the coolest part about the whole luncheon, outside of the 2 inductees, is seeing faces from Jets 1.0 past, right? It was Andrew McBain was there, Peter Taglianetti, Jim Kite, I can go down the list, but the stories those guys told and how tight that team was back in the day when in the Smythe division were unbelievable. So here's a look back at Wednesday's Winnipeg Jets Hall of Fame luncheon.
Thrilled to welcome the next 2 members into the Winnipeg Jets Hall of Fame, Randy Carlyle and Thomas Steen.
To celebrate the induction of Randy Carlyle and Thomas Steen into the Winnipeg Jets Hall of Fame, the team held a luncheon at the Fairmont Winnipeg. The former Jets co-captains were joined by teammates from throughout their playing careers.
It's always great to be with former teammates and to sort of reminisce and to go through those, the times we had together. That's always a lot of fun, and so it was great to do that, and it was great to celebrate, along with many people today, their careers of 2 great former Jet players.
It's really an honor. We all spoke about how important they were to each and every one of us. I played here for 6 years. We were a tremendously close unit. And a lot of that had to do with, Randy and Thomas. They were both tremendous teammates, and that's what I remember so well and fondly about them. And I'll be honest, I got traded to Pittsburgh, and I went to Vancouver, and I went to Ottawa, and they were all good places to play. But I could never replicate or find that sort of community that we had in Winnipeg. So I was elated that I was actually a part of it.
The consistent theme from that luncheon is how quiet Thomas Steen was and how much of a jerk Randy Carlisle was. Like, Andrew Payne told a story about how he would come back every offseason and he'd be a jerk to his friends and his family because Randy Carlisle was such a jerk to him during the regular season. But that joking aside, Randy Carlisle was a big reason why that team was so tight. And they told a story about how if a player was moving into a house, they needed to seed the lawn. The entire team would come over and help them sod their front lawn and everything. They'd hang out together after dinner or after games and during the off season as well. Yeah, and it's just interesting because obviously Carlisle and Steen were co-captains, and it was just funny to hear Thomas Steen kind of tell me when I was putting together some of the bios for this, just how, you know, they had very different personalities but led in their own kind of different way. So it's interesting to hear from their teammates that it was very obvious how different the two were. And one of the things you kind of uncovered is the fact that there was 3 co-captains one season here in Winnipeg, which is, well, I'm going to say it's almost unheard of. It's different. Well, yeah, Dale Howardchuk was one of those that rounded out that trio, but Thomas Steen told a really good story about the fact that the year that they were just co-captains between Steen and Carlisle there was a game that Craig Heisinger, who was the equipment manager at the time, now the current assistant GM of the Jets and the GM of the Moose, realized it's supposed to be on the other guy. So Steen remembers it that Heisinger came over on the bench, ripped the C off and put it on Carlisle because it was just Velcro at the time. So that's a memory that stuck out to Steen from his days in Winnipeg. There'll be no ripping of the C off any jersey during the podcast, so you can download right now on Ground Control. Dave Lowry, the head coach of the Brandon Wheat Kings, who, by the way, are just killing it right now in the Western Hockey League in Lowry's first year. He touches on raising Adam, which was probably no easy feat. I was going to say no small task. Real athletic family too, so you can just imagine the competitive juices that would get flowing no matter what sport or card game or anything that was going on there. It is a Friday night. We are here at Bell MTS Place. Jets trying to find their way back into the playoff situation in the Western Conference. They're taking on the San Jose Sharks. Final thought before we sign off here. I like the extra day that's been provided to the Winnipeg Jets this week. I think it was important. They've played essentially every other day since coming back from the player break. We've talked about how heavy the schedule was for them, especially early on. So they get the extra day, and I think that's going to help them energy-wise. But here's the thing. You play this game, and starting from now until the end of the month, you're playing every other day. So hopefully the extra off day that the Jets took on Wednesday will be helpful, especially when it comes to energy levels off the start, something Blake Wheeler says that's the one thing from the Ranger game they want to bring forward. They had a good start. They didn't necessarily find the back of the net, but they got the start they were looking for, so keep an eye on that. Sharks and the Winnipeg Jets taking on one another here this evening for the final time, actually, for the 2019-20 season. I'm Jamie Thomas. He's Mitchell Clinton. This has been the Jets TV Live pregame show presented by Budweiser. We'll see you after the game.